I can't talk about mobile authentication and authorization without touching on OpenID and OAuth. Everything that we've looked at to date is an implementation of both authentication and authorization solely within our app using handcrafted, out-of-the-box APIs. Now, sometimes that's just fine, but in recent years we've seen the emergence of external providers that can make this process much easier for you as a developer. So for example, OpenID for authentication, and in particular OpenID Connect, which can sit on top of OAuth 2, which we'll look at on the next slide. This not only makes it very easy to authenticate against a service, but also to retrieve profile information about the user. Furthermore, it opens up a whole world of opportunities around authenticating to external providers. This is one of the things that Stack Overflow did very well as an early adopter. In the early days, they said, hey, we don't want to take on responsibility for managing credentials and dealing with the sorts of things that we've looked at in this module, such as protecting against brute force authentication. Let Google deal with it, or my OpenID deal with it, or some other external service. So consider OpenID. It's getting much better supported in a whole bunch of different frameworks. There's also an excellent course on Pluralsight from Dominic Bayer, and in fact he talks about OpenID, OAuth, and JSON Web Tokens. So if you'd like to know more about it, go and watch Dominic's course. He really is the authority on these topics, and he's well worth listening to. In addition to OpenID, do consider the role of OAuth. Now when we talk about OAuth, we're back in the authorization realm. You've already logged in and been authenticated. Now how do we determine the resources that a user is allowed to access? Again, we're starting to talk about open protocols, about problems that have been solved by other people without you necessarily having to go through and reinvent the wheel. And clearly, as we've already seen in this course, it is easy to get it wrong. Once again, check out Dominic Bayer's content. There's an entire Pluralsight course just dedicated to this topic, and I'm not going to try and reproduce it here in the scope of a single clip in a single module, but do take that on board and consider that as an alternative to rolling all your own code and building your own logic to help users log on and then grant them access to services.